When the house grows quieter and the days stretch a little longer, something profound begins to happen. We meet ourselves again. Not the parent, not the spouse, not the career climber or caregiver, but the person who has lived through seasons of laughter and loss, victories and wounds. And now, in this chapter called Old Age, solitude isn't a punishment, it is an invitation. An invitation to turn inward with gentle curiosity, not fear, because we don't need a full dinner table or a calendar packed with plans to feel alive. What we truly need is connection, not always with others, but with ourselves. It's easy to feel invisible when the world seems to race past us, choosing youth over wisdom. But solitude is not the same as loneliness. One aches, the other heals. In our culture, we've been taught that happiness is something that comes from outside, children, spouses, community. But there is a quiet kind of joy that bubbles up when we slow down enough to hear our own breath, to touch the texture of the present moment. That kind of joy doesn't shout, it whispers, and it waits for us in the simplest places. In the morning light on your favorite chair, the first sip of coffee, or the memory of a love that shaped you, even if it's no longer here. This season of life is not about fading away, it's about softening into truth. And that truth is you are not alone just because you are by yourself. There's a vast difference between isolation and sacred solitude. One drains the soul, the other restores it. This is your time to rediscover who you are when no one is watching, when nothing needs to be done, when no one needs you to play a role. It's your time to write the rest of your story on your terms. Let's talk about how to do that, not with loud declarations or grand gestures, but with small, meaningful shifts. Because joy, real joy, isn't in the big things. It's in the moments we allow ourselves to fully feel, fully live, and finally fully be. We spend so much of our lives surrounded by noise, conversations, responsibilities, expectations, and then one day the volume turns down. People grow distant, children build lives of their own, familiar voices grow quiet or disappear altogether. It's in these moments that solitude begins to rise like a tide, and it can feel overwhelming at first. The world tells us it's a sign of emptiness, of being forgotten, but that's a lie we've been fed for too long. Solitude is not the same as being unwanted. It is the space where healing starts, where clarity surfaces, and where we come back to the core of who we are. It's not about being without others. It's about finally having the space to listen to ourselves. When we stop running from the silence and sit with it instead, something beautiful begins to unfold. We remember things we've buried, we face feelings we've avoided, and we realize that we are far more whole than we ever knew. Most of us have been taught to measure our worth through others, how much we give, how much we're needed, how much attention we receive. But in solitude, there are no mirrors reflecting anyone else's opinion of us. There's just us, raw, unfiltered, and real, and that can be terrifying. But it's also the most honest place we'll ever stand. Being alone is not a punishment for aging. It's a passage, a sacred threshold into a deeper kind of peace. It's where the soul stretches out after a lifetime of service and says, now let me rest into myself. There is no audience anymore, no script to memorize, just truth. And the truth is you have always been enough, even when the world was too distracted to see it. So what if we stopped treating solitude like something to endure and started treating it like something to embrace? What if we allowed ourselves to feel held by the quiet instead of haunted by it? What if we could trust that we are not missing anything by being alone, because this moment right here is whole? What if, when life slows down and the rhythm changes, our days can start to feel hollow, like empty spaces we're unsure how to fill? That's where rituals come in, not routines out of obligation, but sacred moments we choose, moments that tell our soul, I see you, you still matter, you still belong here. Rituals don't have to be big or impressive. They don't need anyone else's approval. They just need your presence. It could be something as simple as sitting outside with your morning tea and letting the sun touch your skin before the day begins. It might be lighting a candle every evening and allowing yourself 5 quiet minutes to breathe and come back to center. Maybe it's playing a favorite song that reminds you of a younger version of yourself, the one who's still inside, still hoping you'll say, I haven't forgotten you. These rituals become anchors in a world that sometimes feels like it's drifting. They remind us that joy doesn't come from excitement or chaos. It often comes from rhythm, predictability, something steady you can count on when so much else has changed. And here's what's beautiful: these small acts, these soft rituals, they aren't just things you do, they're ways you speak to yourself. They say, you're still worthy of care, you're still worth the time it takes to pour your coffee slowly, to stretch your limbs, to nourish your body, to sit with your thoughts. We live in a culture that celebrates being busy, but in this season you get to celebrate being still. You get to make the ordinary sacred again. You get to say, I don't need to prove anything today, I just need to be gentle with myself. And when you do that, day after day, these rituals become more than habits. They become little doors you walk through, back to yourself. And each time you do, you realize you were never lost. You just hadn't been home in a while. There is a quiet ache that often comes with age, not just for what we've lost, but for what we've set aside, all those dreams, interests, and little joys we tucked away because life demanded our attention elsewhere. We became providers, caretakers, planners. We spent years pouring into others, often at the cost of our own inner spark. But here's the beautiful truth. Just because a flame has dimmed, doesn't mean it's out. It's still there, waiting. This stage of life isn't about endings. It's about rediscovering what once made you feel alive. Maybe it was painting or gardening or music. Maybe it was writing letters, cooking elaborate meals, solving puzzles, or dancing barefoot in your living room. Maybe it was something you loved as a child, something silly or small that made you laugh until your stomach hurt. Or maybe it's something you've never tried before because you were always too busy, too tired, too afraid of not being good at it. But now there's time, now there's space, now you get to do things just because they make your heart feel light. It's never too late to try something new, never too late to be curious again. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be willing to follow wonder where it leads you, willing to make a mess, willing to laugh at yourself, willing to be a beginner, because joy lives there in the mess, in the laughter, in the courage to explore even when no one is watching. This isn't about impressing anyone or achieving anything. It's about giving your soul permission to play again. Passion isn't just for the young. In fact, it means more now, because it's not about chasing a future. It's about being fully alive in the present. And when you step into that space, when you allow yourself to feel inspired, silly, creative, or moved, you'll find that passion has always been your birthright, not a luxury, not a phase, a part of who you are, a part that still wants to live, still wants to dance, still wants to feel wonder at the smallest, most beautiful things. There's something deeply profound about writing, about putting words to paper that capture the essence of your soul. In a world that constantly pushes us to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be understood, writing is an act of freedom. It's the one place where you don't have to worry about how others will perceive you, or whether your story is worthy of being shared. Writing is your space to speak your truth, to remember, to dream. It is your voice echoing in the silence, and the only one you need approval from is yourself. As the years pass, we often carry a weight of unspoken words. We hold memories that swirl in our minds, emotions that never find a release. We may have forgotten how powerful it can be to simply put pen to paper, but here, now, it's not too late. You don't have to write a book, a memoir, or a poem. You don't even have to have any intention of publishing it or sharing it with anyone. What matters is that you give yourself permission to express, to create, to release the stories you've carried for so long. Maybe you write about the moments that defined you, the triumphs, the heartaches, the lessons you've learned, the people you've loved and lost. Maybe you write about the quiet days, the small victories, the beauty in the everyday. Maybe you simply write about what it feels like to be here, to be alive, to have witnessed so much of this world, and yet still have something left to say. In writing there is healing, in writing there is clarity, in writing there is freedom. When we speak our story, we reclaim it, we take back ownership of the narrative, we stop allowing others, society, our families, the past, to define who we are. We become the authors of our lives, even if no one ever reads a single word you write. The act of writing is a reclaiming of your voice, your truth, your essence. It's not just about what you have to say. It's about the act of saying it. It's about the permission you give yourself to be seen in your own eyes. It's about remembering that your story is worth telling, whether it's shared with the world or quietly held in your own heart. Every line you write is an act of self-love, a testament to your resilience, and a recognition that you too have lived a life full of meaning and depth. So write, not because you need an audience, but because you need to remember. You need to connect with the parts of yourself that have been hidden, that have been waiting to be heard. Write because you deserve to tell your own story, in your own words, without apology. We often spend the first half of our lives taking our bodies for granted, pushing them to the limit, ignoring their signals, or trying to shape them into someone else's ideal. But as we age, our bodies begin to shift. They remind us of their fragility, of their strength, and of their capacity for resilience. And in these changes, there's an invitation to finally honor them, not just as vehicles that carry us through life, but as sacred vessels deserving of our care. Your body has given you everything. It has carried you through years of laughter and tears, moments of joy and sorrow, successes and failures. It has held your spirit through it all, never asking for anything in return except love, respect, and attention. Now in this phase of life, it's your turn to return that care. And it's not just about what you eat or how much you exercise, though those are important too. It's about how you tune into your body, the way you listen to it when it whispers for rest, when it asks for a little more movement, when it craves nourishment. This stage is about cultivating a relationship with your body that is built on kindness, not judgment. It's no longer about trying to achieve someone else's idea of beauty or strength. It's about honoring the beauty that already exists in you, the quiet strength of your legs that have walked you through years of life, the wisdom in your hands that have touched so many, created so much, the wrinkles and lines that tell the story of a life well lived, each one carrying a memory, a lesson, a moment of growth. Nourishing your body isn't just about feeding it. It's about hearing it. It's about taking the time to slow down and offer yourself gentleness. It's about choosing food that fuels, movement that feels good, and rest that rejuvenates. It's about looking at yourself in the mirror and recognizing the value in the person staring back at you, not because you look a certain way, but because you are here and you've made it this far. That in itself is something to be celebrated. So treat your body like it's the only one you have, because it is. It is the only place where you will live, move, and experience the world. It deserves your respect, your patience, and your gratitude. No more punishment, no more neglect, just gentle care, like the care you would offer to a dear friend. And when you do this, when you begin to nourish your body from a place of love, instead of obligation, you will find that it gives you back so much more than you could have ever imagined. It gives you strength, it gives you energy, it gives you peace, because when we love our bodies in the quiet, honest ways they deserve, we create a home where our soul feels safe, seen, and cherished. There is a deep yearning within all of us to connect, to share our lives, our thoughts, our hearts with others, and as we grow older, we may find that the people who once filled our lives with presence and companionship begin to fade. Children grow up and move away, friends pass on or drift apart, and sometimes we find ourselves facing the quiet of solitude. In these moments, the desire for connection can feel even more intense. But here lies the quiet wisdom. True connection begins with you. For years we've been taught to find our worth in the eyes of others, through relationships, achievements, or societal expectations, but there's a different kind of power that comes with being whole without needing validation from anyone else. When we begin to cultivate our own sense of self, rooted in love, understanding, and acceptance, we no longer rely on others to fill the void. We are already complete. This doesn't mean we stop seeking connection. It doesn't mean we shut ourselves off from the world. Rather, it means we begin to approach relationships from a place of fullness, not emptiness. We're no longer chasing companionship to fill a hole in our hearts. Instead, we invite others into our lives because they add to the joy we've already found within ourselves. We allow others to be a part of our journey, not the reason for our journey. The relationships we form later in life, whether with friends, family, or even new connections, become richer when we bring our whole authentic selves into them. We no longer need to mold ourselves to fit others' expectations or seek their approval. Instead, we get to share who we truly are, unguarded and unashamed. We come to relationships not as someone seeking something to fill the emptiness, but as someone who is already full of experience, wisdom, and love. And here's the most beautiful part of it all. When we are whole without others, we become magnets for the right kind of connection. We attract people who see us for who we truly are, not for who we pretend to be, or who we think we need to be. These relationships are the ones that are deep, meaningful, and authentic. They're built on mutual respect and a shared understanding that we are whole, independent people who choose to be in each other's lives because of love, not need. So stay open to connection, but let it flow from a place of already being enough. Allow yourself to be seen by others, but know that your worth is not defined by them. You are whole, you are worthy, and you are loved, whether someone is by your side or not. When you find that peace within yourself, you realize that solitude is not loneliness, and true connection starts with the acceptance of your own company. You no longer need anyone else to complete you. You are already complete, and from that place of wholeness, you can share your light with the world, without fear, without shame, and with all the love you've always had inside. Conclusion: in the end, this stage of life isn't about counting the years that have passed. It's about savoring the moments that are still here, the moments you have the power to shape. Embrace the gift of solitude, not as something to fear, but as a chance to rediscover the depths of who you are. Let your rituals bring you back home to yourself, where peace and presence can thrive. Don't be afraid to rekindle old passions or welcome new ones into your life, because it's never too late to feel the spark of creativity, joy, and wonder. Your story is yours to write, and in each word you pen, you reclaim the power to define your truth. No matter who is watching, nourish your body like it's the temple that has carried you through it all, because it is. And finally, stay open to connection, but let it be rooted in the fullness of your own being, knowing that you are whole, you are enough, and you are worthy of every beautiful moment that lies ahead. Life may have changed, but that doesn't mean it's over. This is the time to live deeply, to embrace solitude without fear, to find joy in the small things, and to move through the world with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that at last, you are exactly where you need to be, whole, content, and ready to create new chapters. And in this new chapter, you get to decide what joy looks like, what fulfillment feels like, and how you want to experience each day. You are not alone in this. You have yourself, and that, my dear friend, is everything.